All right, and welcome to Hat-Trick Sports Talk, NFL Post Show, Week 3. We are recording this on a Monday night due to what we expected to be a classic between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Didn't really get a classic. Join with me, as always, is Brandon and Shane. How are you guys doing today?
Doing all right.
All right. And I don't think you could do a Monday show instead of a normal Sunday without a special guest. We have our guy, Jackson Adams, with us, as always. Welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you.
Golf clap.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, good to have you in again. And let's start with that Chiefs-Ravens matchup. Jackson, I'll go to you, your instant reaction to Chiefs and Ravens.
It was exactly what I thought it would be. At the beginning of the week, I had the Chiefs beating the Ravens. Lamar isn't great in big games when he knows the pressure's on. To be fair, he's 4-0 in primetime up until tonight, but when it comes to the bright lights, big names, big spot, put your name on the map other than the MVP award he won last season, he's not very good. He had less than 100 passing yards. He had a fumble lost. I think he had more rushing yards than he had passing yards tonight. It was a rough night for him. I think tonight showed that there is 3 tiers to quarterbacks in the league. There's Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, and then there's Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers, and then there's everybody else. Actually, no, add Kyler Murray to tier 2. He's been fantastic. Other than 3 interceptions he threw. Yeah. Oh. But it's what I thought it would be.
Yeah, this is why I don't really – a lot of people are saying that, the Ravens are going to be AFC champs and this and that, and I just have never seen it because this is what happens when they get to these big games, when they are going against a good opponent like the Chiefs or even like the Titans last year in the divisional round. They choke. They look terrible. And on both sides of the ball, especially offense. So I mean, I think there's like this kind of mental stigma that they have to get over. And I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, and going back to what Jackson said about the tiers, like I think about halfway through the game, about at halftime, I was sitting here and I was thinking about this game and I was going, I was actually talking to my dad about this and I was going, when we were talking about who was going to be the MVP and all these different quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, yada, yada, yada. And we were having a conversation about how MVP should be defined by, if you take this player away from a team, does this team fall off the map or get significantly worse? And in my opinion, the first tier that Jackson named should be called the MVP tier. Because in my opinion, there are only 2 teams in the league right now where if you pulled the quarterbacks out of there, they would fall off the map with the success they're having. And that is the Seahawks and the Chiefs. I believe if the Chiefs did not have Patrick Mahomes, they would not be having the same success, in my opinion.
Well, you got to keep in mind with the quarterback position, excuse me, Brandon, with the quarterback position, if any of your starting quarterbacks get injured, your team is not the same at all.
Well, I'm talking about a real falling off the map. I'm talking about a not having the same level of success. I just don't see the Chiefs, or the Seahawks for that matter, being as successful as they are without the quarterbacks they have, because both Mahomes and Wilson bring this level of competitive fire, gonna get it done, going to win the day sort of mentality that pushes their team just to that upper echelon that other quarterbacks aren't quite able to bring.
Mm-hmm. In looking at this game, for me, it was weird seeing the Ravens passing game be incredibly non-existent. I wasn't as concerned with the defense because I felt like, it wasn't beautiful. It wasn't excellent by any stretch, but there were spots. I mean, they came back at some point, in the third quarter. There were spots where they made some good plays and stressed Patrick Mahomes to some degree. It was mostly, Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of struggling a little bit in those situations. But the main issue that I had was that Ravens passing game, because I know that defense is good. I don't see the defense not being good for the next 14 weeks we have left or whatever it is. But that passing game is frustrating because I came into the season thinking, okay, Lamar's going to be better as an overall passer, and it just wasn't there. And I think that's the biggest problem with the Ravens right now is where really is Lamar's passing game? I mean, are there teams where he does have good passing days? Yes, we saw it in week 1, and Brandon and I even was really excited about that after week 1. But looking at this game, I just look at their passing game and go, it's non-existent. Literally, all their best plays today were run plays, all of them. That's
Yeah.
really concerning.
I mean, that's kind of what I expect of this team, anyways, because that's just what they. Like last year, that's what they built themselves on is, having all these backs, and then of course Lamar running for 1,200 yards or whatever. They just don't. I mean, you go up against a defense that's even somewhat good, and then you kind of see because that's. I mean, how do I say this? It's becoming apparent that people are starting to figure out, like defenses are starting to figure out Lamar Jackson. They're starting to really figure out how to stop him. You can just see it in the defensive game plan and the schemes, whatnot. And yeah, he's really good. He's very electric, very fast, athletic. But I think he's somewhat limited right now because there's still this giant hump that he has to get over in terms of continuing to evolve his game, and he just hasn't, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I've seen Lamar for a season and a half now play in the National Football League, and there's a reason I don't rank him as high as I do 5 other quarterbacks, which is Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady. It's because, one, I don't think he elevates his teammates the way that Russ and Patrick Mahomes do, as well as Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Drew Brees. I also don't think he has the composure to be as great as those quarterbacks. I was watching him tonight. It's a big difference I noticed with Russ and Lamar is Russ gets sacked, he gets up, he shakes it off, he tells his O-lineman, okay, let's get back to it the next play. I saw Lamar get sacked tonight late in the fourth quarter, and he was screaming at his O-lineman. He was complaining to the refs. He was not holding his composure. And he wasn't really putting throws in all the right places. There was a few drops by Marquise Brown tonight that I thought could have, persuaded and switched the way the drive were going.
and
I
Mark
just don't think
Andrews.
he has the qualities to be a great quarterback like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I'll say in his defense, going back to talking about how what I believe it was what Shane said about how defenses are figuring him out. When Shane said that, it kind of made me think about how I would say it was about 3 years into Russell's career that defenses, at least in the NFC West, really started being like, okay, his whole thing is like he does a bunch of like play breaks down and then he runs for crazy touchdowns, and they run the ball. Like he was never really the like arm strength throw guy for his first couple of years, and to give Russell credit, he did have a couple years to be able to build up his arm, his throwing accuracy, and his throwing ability. Like, not to say he was not good at throwing coming into the league, but he definitely
evolved his game.
He evolved his game. Saying that, that's the one thing I will say I'll give Lamar the benefit of the doubt. He has not had the ability to have 3 or 4 years to evolve his game to transfer over into more of a passing game. However, I will say if he wants to be successful and continue to have a long-term success in the league, he's going to need to figure out a way. And I think it's a mixture of him as a player and also his coaching staff being like, look, they're figuring it out. You can't just do the run around in circles and like hope for the play and then do something crazy when the play breaks down. You have to become a thrower. Not all the time, but it can't just do the same thing that every other running quarterback has done for the first year of their career. Because if you think about it, that helps teams learn a quarterback who's an athletic quarterback coming into the league. They just look at every other quarterback who's been athletic and be like, okay, you can do this, this, and this to stop them.
No, but here's my question, though, and I think week 1 can provide this example. But where do you see that growth? Like, I want to see some of it now. It doesn't have to be complete. And again, I'm a big Lamar Jackson apologist. I had him ranked really high in our quarterback draft. I like him a lot. I think we talk about electric, all these things. But even with Russell, for example, and I think it's a prime example, there were flashes of him as a passer. There were pieces where you felt like, okay, he can develop. I mean, yes, it's only a year and a half of him actually starting, but I don't know if we've actually seen that development happen yet. And that's where I'm concerned. Like,
well, that's my point. Like, he's not. I don't think they're trying hard enough to just put the pass game in play as a focal point. Whereas with Seattle, when they started being like, okay, people are figuring out our game plan with Russell, they really started putting in place kind of more of a focal point on throwing the ball, which has led to where we are at now with the Seahawks, where it's like, look at all these wide receiver threats, throw that ball, Russ. Like,
letting Russ cook.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not a you go from running the ball all the time to Russell throwing the ball over time in one season. It's kind of, you build it up. And I just think what my point is I believe they need to focus Lamar's ability at throwing the ball, because I believe from what I've seen, he has a good arm. He just needs to learn to get more. He needs to be more accurate, and I think he also needs to have a better relationship with his wide receivers, because Russell Wilson, he gets to know every one of his players, and it's obvious that he has a great connection with every one of his wide receivers. And that makes a huge difference.
It makes his receivers better. Tyler Lockett wouldn't be the same player if he wasn't in Seattle. Same with DK. But again, my point. So you feel like we haven't really we haven't seen the development switch at all. Like, because that's where I haven't. I don't think we have. Yeah.
No, but even if my thing with Lamar Jackson is, even if he does develop, my biggest issue with him is still this like stigma in his mind of like being able to show up in big games. You know what I mean? Because normally he plays, in any ordinary Sunday on a 1:00 game, he plays really well and he looks like a top 3 quarterback. But then, you get him in a game against, the Chiefs or playoffs or whatever, and he just kind of chokes. Which, developing himself as a player and as a passer will help that for sure. But, I just think there's more to it than that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Let's go on to Sunday Night Football. Jackson, I'll start with you on this as well, because this is something that I've harped on constantly with the Packers. I've been really impressed with them offensively and how Aaron Rodgers has played. You can probably speak to it a little more in depth, but what are your thoughts on this Packers offense right now? Because it's been really impressive.
I'm not a huge Packers fan just because I'm a massive Seahawks fan. There's always been a debate, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. It's been a great rivalry throughout Russell's 9-year career. But it's the first time I've watched the Packers, and I've genuinely just been excited to watch Aaron Rodgers play, which is really weird to say because I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan, but it is fun to watch him play right now. I think him and LaFleur have a great relationship. I think they have a great understanding of what they want to do and what the offense could and should be. Even with Devontae Adams out, they put up 30-plus points last night to beat the New Orleans Saints, who aren't by any means a bad defense or a bad team. A lot of people had them as their favorites coming out of the NFC for the Super Bowl this year, as they do most years. So I really, really like Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay offense. I'm not too keen on their defense quite yet, but I think their offense could carry them a long way.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because No, Devontae has not been playing, and you would think, oh, that's gonna hurt them, but it hasn't really. I mean, their young guys have stepped up, and not to mention the rushing attack. Aaron Jones, I mean, he's just ridiculous. he um, he's been playing. He obviously played really well last year, but now this year too. Um, he's a top 3 or 4 back probably, and you know, I think I think this defense is getting better. Uh, it's not, it's still not amazing, but we saw kind of like glimpses of it last year, what it could be, and I think they're kind of starting to, you know, mold into that. And yeah, I mean, I like where they're going a lot, because, like Jackson said, the offense just looks kind of, you know, refreshed and rejuvenated. There's there's definitely this new spark to Rodgers. But
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, like, for me, I actually agree with you guys. Like, both Shane and Robert can tell you how much I've disliked the Packers in the past. I have no love lost for Aaron Rodgers. I think personally he's rubbed me the wrong way as a player. I've talked quite a few times on the show about my opinion on him being kind of whiny, and I think he just doesn't handle emotionally doesn't handle things and comes across the wrong way. However, for some reason, it seems like this year he has X amount of years into his career has suddenly decided to become
Matured.
a more mature quarterback, both on and off the field. And I think that has contributed to his ability to lead his team, which I think is a factor that not a lot of people really think about when it comes to a quarterback, like someone who's able to lead the team. I think it's really funny because a lot of people, I think, going into the season were like, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers, he's old. He's starting to get old. He's gonna only have a couple more years left in his career." But I don't know, man.
Shane, what do you need?
He could
oh,
be
I was saying that.
yeah, he could be
Yeah.
he could be a player that, like, plays out his contract with the Packers and then finds himself a pretty lucrative deal somewhere else, leaving the Packers with
Jordan.
really
Jordan Love.
a project in Jordan Love.
Yeah, he was inactive, which, by the way, he's been
There's a
inactive.
reason that he's inactive.
He's been inactive for 3 weeks, and I'm like, guys,
he's
has he not
trash.
learned the
Busting his
playbook?
kneecaps.
Well, no, I don't even
Have you
think it's.
seen any of the videos
Well, look,
coming out of camp?
I don't think he's trash. I think he's just trying to learn the
he's
playbook,
so
and with new
inaccurate.
stuff with with the protocols and everything. I think they're just trying to get him along slowly. But for me, it is very strange that he's been inactive. It's actually kind of freaked me out.
It's the
But
same
it's
thing that
strange that they got him in
happened
the first
with
place.
Dwayne Haskins last year in Washington.
Was he inactive for
Yeah,
like 5
yeah.
games?
No, he just didn't know the playbook.
Yeah.
He should have been inactive.
Oh, so that might
But-
be the case with Jordan Love.
And
Yeah.
it's like I knew he was going to be like this because there was like footage and stories coming out of training camp in Green Bay from early on where, like, they were they were doing drills, like accuracy drills, like just throwing into those, like, pockets, and, like, Jordan Love was, like, missing wildly, like
It's gonna take some time, it seems like.
yeah, and that's why I say it's like a project. I believe, honestly, I think it'll be 3 years. I think they're gonna have to go out and find a veteran for a year before he'll be able to start. Like, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is gonna stick around.
Well, I mean, he's got a 5-year deal, so he's definitely going to stick around. But I think the major thing with Jordan Love for me is, like, we kind of knew this as well coming out, that it was a project. That's why I felt like Green Bay was a nice fit, is that we knew we could give him 1 or 2 years and then figure him out. I mean, more so.
I
More-
would say, Robert, sorry to cut you off, but
Am
I
I
would say,
wrong on that?
I mean, I would say, coming from like having heard your reaction when they drafted Jordan Love, your reaction was more of that of someone who thought, "Oh my God, this guy could start right away." Like,
Well, I still feel like here and to add to that, I think the major thing with the Jordan Love pick was this idea of transition, right, with the Green Bay Packers, where they were in a position where they're like, we don't really want Aaron here long term. We have a running game. We talked about this, right? And that's why Jordan Love made sense. It was more of the running game mentality. But as we've watched Rodgers for these first 3 weeks, yeah, that running game mentality is still there, but they're throwing even more. So that mentality's kind of switched over the offseason, especially it being long. And of course, they're talking about in the broadcast with all the Zoom meetings and how they're sort of refining the offense or how they were doing that in the offseason. I think that LaFleur's plan has changed with this offense than it was in April, where it was, we're going to run the ball a lot, not let Aaron throw 50 times a game or whatever it is. And that's why the Jordan Love pick made sense, especially to me at that time, where I felt after 1 year he could start. But now after 3 weeks, I feel like that plan is completely shifted.
I never thought it made sense, to be honest.
I mean, I get it with a guy like Aaron
I don't
Rodgers.
know. Yeah. No, I never, I don't know. Well, I wasn't expecting Rodgers to mentor him, but
Which he
he
has
has.
been doing, which is awesome.
Yeah. Just because, I mean, like you guys, I wasn't ever really the biggest fan of him. And there was that thing that happened a couple years ago. And you probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I don't think we need to recount that on here. If you go, I think if you go back in some of our old U-Wave archives, you might see that story somewhere down the line. But either way,
What story
yeah.
is this? What am I missing?
well, we have to tell you post show. This is not PG for this. This doesn't work.
Oh, I see.
So and Shane, let's kind of shift gears here to the Saints,
Okay.
right? And we're talking about last week and all throughout the first couple of weeks of the season, we were talking about the Saints and we were talking about Drew Brees and if he's kind of lost a step with his arm. And for me, after watching this game, it's not even that he lost a step with his arm; it's that they're relying on Alvin Kamara and a lot more short routes. Do you feel the same way?
Well, yeah, and I think a big reason for that is that, obviously Michael Thomas is out. And, I just think that they have been doing that much more, though. His arm is definitely not what it used to be. Not that it was ever really that strong to begin with. He's always been more of a, he's always had more of a soft ball. But it does make sense for right now because he's a top 5 back. And so, it makes sense for them to get him involved in the game, especially when Thomas is hurt. And the thing that's weird to me, though, is that Sanders doesn't really seem to be getting involved. And I don't
Touchdown yesterday.
Yep. Well, yeah, but I mean, he hasn't been a big factor really. And I don't know why. I don't really know why, but maybe it's a trust thing. That's what people seem to be thinking, because he went to San Francisco and he made an immediate impact, and I figured he would be kind of the same there, but he's just been okay so far. So I don't know. It's they could just be in a weird funk right now. Green Bay is a really good team, so they lost by only a touchdown, so it's not like they are playing horribly. But I do kind of want to, once Michael Thomas is around, I want to see if that sort of short pass attack continues, because then that'll tell us a lot, in my opinion, but we will see.
And then moving on to the Seahawks and the Cowboys, Brandon, I'll have you start with your impression of the Seahawks in this game.
Yeah, I think I said most of it before we went on the air, but I will say it again. I think Seahawks, as usual, offense continues to look amazing. It's ridiculous how open the wide receivers are getting. Um, it's like watching college football, honestly.
It's like watching Big 12 ball. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, I mean, at one point, that game-winning touchdown from Russell to DK, I mean, I went back and watched it, and he quite literally started on the left side of the field, went all the way down, crossed the field, and scored in the far right corner of the end zone. The fact that Russell had that much time is a miracle. Like seeing as how some of our old O-lines have been. So my biggest takeaway is how our O-line stepped up big time in this game, and I love to see it. So
my thought with the O-line is this. I think it's maintainable. It's not sustainable. It's still not good at all. It isn't.
no,
But it's
I disagree with you.
maintainable.
It's good. It's a good O-line.
I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good.
Robert, I don't know
think it's
what you're
maintainable.
watching, but I think you're high if you say that it's not a good O-line.
I might have another
Good-
take that might have you say that
Good
later.
means something different for Seahawks fans when it comes to O-line. Like, Seahawks fans in the last years have
Are they
seen
a top 5 O-line?
really bad-
Are they going to
I'm
finish
not
as a top 5
I'm
O-line?
not saying they're like superstar level O-line, but I'm saying like if
Top
That's why I'm
20.
saying maintainable.
no, it's not even maintainable. It's like maintainable for me is like you have to keep slotting players around to like make things work.
I worry about O-line
That's not
injuries for
maintainable.
this team
That's
too. I worry about injuries at that O-line too.
whatever.
Jackson, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, our O-line is bad. Our highest graded offensive lineman is a rookie drafted in the 3rd round. That's how bad it is. I mean, we shift around players to get the offensive line working, like Robert said. It's maintainable, but we're bottom 15 in the league, maybe bottom 20. We're not good on the offensive line. Granted, there were spots on Sunday where we had a good pocket presence for Russell Wilson to give him time. But like I said, on that game-winning touchdown, you have to remember DK ran a 4.3. You see him jog up the left sideline and then turn on the burners to get to the right corner of the end zone. A lot of that was good blocking by the offensive line, but a lot of that was also a Russell Wilson touch ball to DK's speed. So I wouldn't credit the offensive line much to anything right now. We're 3 weeks into the season. Mike Upati just had his highest grade as a Seahawk as an 85, which is not great. He's been here for almost 3 years now. Dwayne Brown's getting old. He's getting injured. Damian Lewis is injured. Jamarco Jones isn't sustainable. I don't think our offensive line is good, but I think Russell Wilson and our receivers are making up for the fact that they're not giving him a lot of time. But to be fair, to Brandon's point, we've seen Russell get a lot more time this year than we have previously the last 8 years of his career, which I am enjoying to see.
I mean, just to clarify my statement of the line is good. I'm coming from a point of being a Seahawks fan who has seen
Horrible
worse.
O-lines.
Relative to
I've
the last
seen-
couple of years.
I'm talking like comparing it to 2015. That's all I have to say.
Comparing it to last year even, it was
Yeah, that's
pretty
fair.
terrible.
Like we've seen bad O lines here. I still have to ask the question: why do we have Russell Wilson and they don't put money into like protecting him? Like it's what I ask.
That's why
every year.
that's why we got Dwayne Brown, right? But he's pretty old at this point. Jackson, you're still like shocked by this point.
Yeah, I mean, I just got some insider info, but no, yeah, our offensive line isn't great, but I mean, I don't want to dwell on that fact about the 2020 Seahawks. People aren't focused on the offensive line. I think we should be focused on the clear front runner for the MVP, which is, for one, not Kyler Murray.
No, it's not.
Aaron Rodgers.
I agree
Oh,
with
you
that.
admit
No,
it, Robert.
no, he's not.
Oh,
The
that's nice to
populace
hear.
admits it.
But at least nationally he's getting recognition, which is
Yes.
great.
But at the
God.
same time, I was kind of noticing this. I'm big on Seahawks Twitter. I follow, Bleach Report, all the main accounts. But Russ is the media doesn't like Russ the way they're portraying it this year. They put him down any moment they can compared to Lamar or Patrick Mahomes when they do something special. They're like, oh, Russ best QB in the league this, Russ QB in the league that. So I don't think they actually give him the respect. I think they're just being forced to. But I mean, I also don't want to go too far and be too quick to jump on the Russ for MVP bandwagon. Through 5 weeks last year, Russell Wilson was a clear frontrunner for the MVP, and then Lamar Jackson came in weeks 6 through 15, tore it up in November, and ended up winning an MVP award. I think it's
It is
far too
pretty
early.
early.
I think it's far too early in the season to be voting for MVPs. Russ is obviously having a stellar start to the year, breaking the all-time touchdown records throughout 3 games, all-time high completion percentage, yards. We've scored 30 plus in 3 straight games for the first time since 2015. We're 3-0 for the first time since 2013, the year we won the Super Bowl. I think this is our most well-rounded team since that Super Bowl year that we lost at the goal line in 2014. We have a lot of good names. We have a lot of good talent. We just need Ken Norton to find out where to put the pieces on defense. And I think if the offense keeps doing what they're doing, they'll be winning a lot more games this season.
Let's shift to the Cowboys side. Shane, I'll go to you. I continue to go to this offense, and I think it showed itself again. I feel really comfortable with this offense minus one piece, and that one piece is Dak Prescott. I don't feel really comfortable about Dak. Shane, your thoughts on that?
I mean, this guy's interesting. He gets a lot of yards. He puts up really good stats, but in big games, he can't seem to, or not even big games, against teams that are as good or better than him. He can't add a number to the win column. And it's interesting because you look at this offense, they're stacked. O-line's pretty good, not as great as they used to be, but still decent. All things considered. Zeke, he's a top 5 back when he's playing well. You got Amari Cooper, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, he's looking all right.
How about Cedric Wilson yesterday?
Oh, yeah, true. Yet he, gets almost 500 yards a game, all these touchdowns, but he can't be clutch and just go that next step. I don't know why this guy wants $40 million a year. I don't when you can't even win 9 games. It's I don't know what it is exactly. I don't know if it's a mental thing or if it's just him as a player is not fundamentally there. I don't know. I'll leave it open to you guys, but
if we're talking about Dak Prescott, who I have as one of the better quarterbacks in the league, after tonight's Monday Night Football game, I have him and Lamar Jackson ranked in the same tier. Both can't really win big games. Dak has more playoff wins than Lamar on a significantly worse team. His offensive line is deteriorating year by year since he's gotten into the league. It's only gotten worse. To be fair, he started out with the number 1 O-line. But this year, they haven't been much better. He was really good 2 weeks ago in the Falcons game, leading a really great comeback. Granted, there was an improbable onside kick. He still managed to do that just like Russell Wilson did in the NFC Championship game against Green Bay in 2014. Dak, I like him a lot. His defense is not really doing him any favors this year. You can't expect – I think it's easy for people in Seattle to see Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes in primetime games and go, okay, is this our standard? And then we see people like Dak Prescott, and it's like, we expect so much of you because you're asking a lot of money. But, when you look at it, he's putting up the numbers. He's leading game-winning drives. If you realize on the last drive of the game yesterday, his offensive line broke down bad. He got sacked once, almost sacked twice. The Seahawks D-line was finally getting pressure on them. It feels like His offensive line is old and they're getting tired, and they're just not really doing him any favors. It also doesn't help that his main weapon, Zeke, had less than 100 yards yesterday. I think Dak is fine. I think the Cowboys are a good team. I think Mike McCarthy needs to do a better job at managing what Dak is doing in the game. I don't think he needs to be throwing for 500 yards a game. I think there should be more options for that.
Here's my question, Jackson, though, and here's my biggest problem with the Cowboys. I mean, defensively, yes, they're not very good. They're still developing. They're getting younger, at least. When you're looking at Dak, and let's say you eliminate Zeke and you eliminate all their weapons, minus, let's say, one, even that. Let's say they don't have the weapons. Let's say they don't have Zeke playing at a high level. What is Dak as a quarterback?
He's Lamar Jackson without the legs. If you eliminate all of Lamar Jackson's weapons, what is he? That's why I rank them near the same tier. I mean, any quarterback without a lot of weapons, other than, like I said, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, you're not really going to get much. I like Dak Prescott more than the average person, though. And I don't know why I like him so much, because I'm not a Cowboys fan. I don't really have anything to do with Dallas, but I like his presence. I like his leadership. He's someone I think that knows how to get a football team back in action when they're losing, and I think it's shown a couple times throughout his career, especially the last 2 weeks.
I think he's good. Don't get me wrong. Just not great,
No, he's not great by any means. And
Yeah.
great, I don't think, is a light comment to make in the NFL. There's 5 great quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I stated them earlier: Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. And Drew Brees is kind of on that scale for me. I think by the end of the season, Kyler Murray will move up to that and Drew Brees will move down.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Brandon, your thoughts on Dak right now?
I think it's kind of been covered. I mean, I would just say that I feel like Dak's good at rallying,
Mm-hmm.
He's not good at maintaining. Like, he'll rally, but if he's put in a tight situation of having to win the game when it's a close, like need a touchdown or something to get that buffer, I never quite managed to really see him get those close, clutch situations for the win. That's, yeah, I mean, I pretty much, I think he's good. I think he has talent. I would argue we might see him, if he leaves the Cowboys and goes to another team that can provide him with different aspects in a coach. I think I said this actually to Robert earlier today, maybe, or someone today. I said, I think Dak Prescott he would benefit from going to a team with a head coach who can coach QBs.
You're talking like a Bruce Arians type.
Yeah, I think he would benefit a lot from having Bruce Arians as his coach, because I don't know, there's something I can't put my finger on.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you put Dak Prescott in the Los Angeles Rams QB room and replace him with Jared Goff, I think he would be a very, very good quarterback compared to what he is in Dallas.
He'd be very different. Yes, I would agree.
That.
But that's to the point that Sean McVay is levels and years better than Mike McCarthy is.
Yeah.
At this stage, yes.
Yes.
I want to move to the team that played against the Rams yesterday, and I know I might be called an apologist for this, but let me make this point. I am buying into Josh Allen, and I'm putting all my stock on him. And let me explain why I'm doing this. I'm doing this – I've always been a big fan of Josh Allen, but here's why. It's not that he's a great quarterback necessarily. I don't think he is. But for me, when you look at what Sean McDermott does with this offense, he fits it perfectly. And that's it. It's not the fact that yes, he makes mistakes, but I think we harp too much on his mistakes. Yes, he's not perfect. Yes, he's not polished. But I look at what Sean McDermott likes to do in this offense, and Josh Allen just fits it. He's the right guy for them. Jackson, you fully agree with me on this point.
I love Josh Allen. It brings me back to a conversation we were having earlier. Last year, Josh Allen could not hit a wide open receiver. He could not hit the the water, if he was standing on the sand at the beach. This brings me back to our conversation about Lamar Jackson's accuracy problems. We've seen no improvement there. Over the offseason and through the first 3 games of the season, I've seen Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen improve his completion percentage by a high margin than what it was at last year. And he's making a lot of great plays. He led a really, really good game-winning drive after his defense gave up the lead last night or yesterday afternoon. I am also all in on him. I think he's very great. I think he will be a future all great talent in the quarterback position in the league.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I would just say, I was last year definitely. I was one of the biggest haters on Josh Allen because I was like, there were some people who for some reason, even though he like all around was not the shiniest part of the team, thought he was good last year. But I mean, as I think it was as Danny O'Neil tweeted out on Sunday during the game, he's like, "Do I have to like Josh Allen now? Because like, it's not just his accuracy, really. I mean, he's actually showing some level of like I give a shit, like a level of like fire up from a quarterback, which the moment a quarterback shows me that level of like, I don't know what exactly to call it, but that like I kind of call it like the let's do this sort of like
the let's go.
The let's go. It's like the rile up like just like sort of like I'm gonna find a way to get it done. I'm gonna give you my respect, even if I'm gonna get on you at times as I do about Josh Allen, because I'm gonna be the first one to be like, okay, you can't say you had an amazing game. My problem with him when we talked about Josh Allen, I believe it was during the game, Robert, when we were talking about him, was the fact that people, like you said, oh, he had an amazing game. He had he had a flawed game at times. He played well, but you can't say it was an amazing game. I think overall, good player.
I call it an amazing game from the perspective of what Sean McVay wants this offense to be around him. Not for necessarily what he is as a talent.
You mean
fair.
Sean McDermott?
Or McDermott, excuse me, not McVay.
The thing is, though, I do think that...
And one last thing, sorry, Shane. And then,
no, it's okay, man. It's okay.
And I just want to say, comparing it, and then when you put Jackson was talking about the game-winning drive. He had he had the play where he threw he had the pass interference happened, and then he got the opportunity over again. And that moment right there, I kind of went, okay, now I'm seeing things where he's definitely becoming a better quarterback, because he got another set of downs. He got the opportunity to finally to end the game and win it for them, and he did it. He scored the touchdown, and it's the difference, between like being able to like get it done when it matters, when you need to, and get the dub, and not being able to. So,
Shane, go ahead.
Well, you said that you don't think he's necessarily a great player, but he just works well in the system. I disagree. I mean, I think he is a really good player. Yeah, it helps that he's in a really good scheme for him, but I mean, this he's fast, he's athletic, he has a really strong arm. I mean, it's, other than Mahomes, probably the strongest in the entire NFL. And the things that he needed to improve on were his decisions and his accuracy, and he's done both of those. So, I mean, I don't know. He doesn't turn the ball over anymore like he used to. His accuracy's way up. I mean, I don't know what else you want to see out of him.
I want to see 6 more weeks of this. That's
okay.
it.
All right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I was just wondering.
I want to see 6 more weeks. If this is what he is in the midseason, then we're good.
Consistency.
Jackson, I want to go to the Rams because I'm very confused about the Rams right now. What are the Rams? What's the difference between 2019 Rams and 2020 Rams in your mind?
The difference is I think this Rams team is a bit more consistent. They added Jalen Ramsey late last year, and they went off on a series of wins to end the season in 2019. I think they're a bit more consistent, but then at the same time, it's like, are they consistent? I through the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh no, the Rams are back. Like this is a determined Rams team. Sean McVay is back. Like they're gonna be scary, and then I see them get demolished by a Bills offense who isn't known to be very good, but then again they've had a bit of a resurgence these first 3 games of the season. And for the first 3 quarters, they didn't have anything for a Bills defense who really hasn't been too great the last 7 games dating back to last year, including the playoffs.
Injuries were a huge reason for that.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, they're still NFL players, so it's like you still have to go through these people. But the Rams, I think, if I'm looking at them as a Seahawks fan, I think they'll beat us once this year. I think that's where one of our losses will come from. But as the rest of the league, I think, as well as me, like the league doesn't really know what to think about them right now. I think it's a bit too early. They had an inconsistent game yesterday. They had 2 really good games to start the season, but then it's like, what do you really know? That's why it's hard to do these analysis
Yeah,
this analysis
this
this
early.
early in this season. Yeah, it's such a small sample size, even though it's a pretty similar group to what they had last year. Anything can happen. It's a completely new season. The Mariners in 2003 won 96 games. The next year they won 60. So it's like every season's a different season, no matter what sport you're playing. So
Or
I'll have
San
to wait and see
Francisco.
the next couple of weeks.
Or San Francisco in 2018 won, 4 games and then 13 the next year.
Yeah, to be fair, Jimmy G tore his ACL that year. So,
Right.
Right.
but that exact concept, yes.
Brandon, I'll go to you with the Chicago Bears. What is a reasonable expectation for Nick Foles and the Bears?
I don't really know. I'd say maybe like I want to say 8-8, but I don't know if that's being too giving them too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say 9-7 to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like 8-8, 9-7 is about the area, about the
Mm-hmm.
record. I would say with how they're playing.
Mm-hmm. What about Matt Nagy as a coach for you right now?
I don't know. I don't really ever see any like Matt Nagy. He's seems to have managed to put something together this year. It looks like, but I'm not too certain about them. I haven't watched a ton of the Bears this year. So.
Shane, they're 3-0. What are your thoughts on Chicago right now?
Well, I wasn't expecting this, that's for sure. But I mean, even more so, I'm just glad they benched Trubisky. This is something about 2 years overdue, and here we are, finally. They're putting in a Super Bowl MVP. Not that he's been playing like that ever since that happened, but he's certainly better than Trubisky, in my opinion. And I think he showed that. I mean, when he came in, he just looked so much more competent than Trubisky. And their defense, it's not like it was a couple of years ago, but they're still pretty good. And I mean, offensively, they've picked up a lot of steam too, especially in the ground game. And I think they just needed a more consistent passer, someone who's, makes better decisions and is more consistent. And that just wasn't Trubisky. I think they'll get more of that with Foles. So, I mean, I don't know what in the world is going on in their division, other than Green Bay, but I think they're probably looking at 9-7 at this point. Because it is like Jackson was saying, it's only 3 games. Who knows? It's early to tell a lot of this stuff. Because you look at who they played. They played Atlanta, Detroit, and what was the other team?
And they played the Falcon. Well, yeah, I forgot the
Atlanta,
last.
Detroit, and whoever the second team was, which neither of them are that great. So we'll see.
Yeah. Jackson, do you want to talk about the Bears for a bit?
Yeah, there's a saying that people say. It's that history often repeats itself. Usually I'm not quick to jump on something, but I've seen it time and time again with the man Nick Foles. And I think a game like he had in the fourth quarter yesterday against the Falcons, I think that's a big momentum shifter for a Bears offense who had wide receivers begging to be traded because they know their QB can't throw them the ball.
It was contract. It was contract related, Allen Robinson.
And it really wasn't. Mitchell Trubisky sucks. I had him ranked as like my number 35 QB going into the season.
He went last in our draft.
Yeah, he was not a starter in my eyes because he's not. I think the Eagles made a giant mistake letting go of Nick Foles 2 seasons ago.
I agree.
I think Green Bay is going to have some troubles with the Bears in this division. I think they're going to win more games than you guys say they are, and I think they're going to be a serious problem. I think this is one of those games that kind of shifts the tide a bit for a team that kind of was feeling down and out, shouldn't be 3-0, but they are. I think Nick Foles is that guy to lead them to a better than winning record, and I think they sneak in the playoffs as a wild card team, but I don't think they have a chance to win the division with how good Green Bay is playing right now.
Yeah, with the Bears, it's definitely interesting with Foles. I still see them as 8-8 because I think that defense is not the same as they used to be. They're still good, but the defense isn't really there. I have a tough time with where the Bears are going to be going because I don't even know if Nagy's the right coach for this team. The main thing with me with the Eagles bringing back Foles would have been the contract. I wouldn't have wanted to pay him what he would have been asking for, which I imagine would have been a lot more than – the Bears got him in a pretty expensive contract as well. That would have been my biggest problem with that. But if they got him on a cheaper deal, I wouldn't have necessarily hated that. Going to the Falcons, this is a question that I keep asking over and over and over because I just can't seem to pinpoint it. Jackson, you're the next person I got to ask for this. What's wrong with the Atlanta Falcons?
I hate Matt Ryan. I'm just going to start off with that. I hate that man.
You don't like Matty Ice?
I think he sucks. He is not good. Dan Quinn is not a good head coach. He is not doing well under pressure. They had one spectacular season, and then they just fell off the tracks. I don't know what happened.
Shanahan was the offensive
coordinator. It's just exactly. And he was literally the entire team. The Falcons suck. They're a really good offense. Their defense is trash. Dan Quinn, as a defensive head coach, will be fired at the end of the season. If not then probably sometime within the next 2 weeks, just like Adam Gase for the New York Jets.
We get to Adam Gase next.
They're really bad. I don't like them at all. It's rough to be a fan of the Atlanta Falcons right now.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Chokers.
They just find a way to lose. Russell Wilson's whole thing is find a way to win. They are literally the opposite. They find a way to lose. Every time I watch them, it's just complete garbage. They're up 14, I blink once, and then they lost the game. It makes no sense. That's not a good team. Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley deserve better than what they have. This was a big topic when we did our QB thing with our QB draft at the beginning of the season, was that like stats are cool and all, but they don't always mean what they seem. Matt Ryan is a bunch of numbers, and he's nothing other than that. I don't think they're a good team, and I don't think they'll stick with Matt Ryan. In 2 years, he'll be off that team and gone.
Yeah, his numbers are great, but he can't really back it up with a win.
No, he can't. As much as numbers are cool, the only thing that matters at the end of the day is 1-0 that week. That's all that matters is the win. And they cannot get that done.
He reminds me a lot of Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott's miles better, but yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyways, I hate the Falcons. Always have. Always will.
It's just a
They're
sad. It's just a
they're
sad thing right
frauds.
now. It's just sad because I really feel like they should
Fire
be
Dan
better than what they
Quinn.
are.
Fire Dan Quinn. Bring him back to Seattle. Get rid of Ken Norton, and we'll be set for a Super Bowl run here.
Here's the thing. I feel like they get rid of Dan Quinn. This team is different. I do. I feel like the team's much different. I feel like Matt Ryan's a better quarterback without Dan Quinn as the head coach, but I don't know who you'd bring in. That's the biggest thing. I still feel pretty good with Matt Ryan. I think it's more the coaching staff, if nothing else.
They should bring in Joe Flacco to be the coach.
They should bring in Lincoln Riley to be the coach.
Yeah, that would be
I
a great
think that
fit.
would be
Urban
a
Meyer.
great fit. Him or Urban Meyer, yes. I think those are two college coaches who, if they need a transition to the NFL, if they make the Falcons a good team or even an 8-8 team, better than what they are now, I think they will find major success there. Dan
I really
Quinn
think
is
it's
not
the
the right
coaching
coach
staff.
for them.
I really
Yeah.
think it's the coaching staff ultimately. And let's go to another coaching staff in New York with the Jets. Brandon, Adam Gase might be fired in 5 days. Would it surprise you?
No.
Does that benefit Le'Veon Bell in this offense if he gets fired?
No.
No. This is the Jets are like watching a car run into an oil tanker and then like that
These
fire,
are all
like,
horrible. I did a bad
fire-
one 2 weeks ago,
that
which
fire,
I sincerely
like,
apologize for.
that fire like then causes a bunch of trees to fall over onto a railroad track and then the train like crashes into the tree, and all the while all the people watching this happen are all the like fans of other NFL teams just being like wow, look at that absolute like car, train, plane, automobile crash going on, all with Adam Gase being like,
That giant
Nope.
Peter Griffin chicken fight.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
That's what I think of when I think about the Jets. It's like, and then it goes in reverse and goes back and forward. It's like, I don't get it. How can
Damn
one
you.
team continue to be such a train wreck?
I feel bad for Jets fans, but there's one person I feel even more remorse for, and that is Clemson QB Trevor Lawrence, because he's going to get thrown into that offense, and it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
And if your first NFL team doesn't work out, I heard it on the herd a couple days ago, most likely your second NFL team won't work out. I'm so
Unless you're
excited for Trevor
Tannehill.
Lawrence. Yeah, I'm so excited for Trevor Lawrence, but if he goes to the Jets, his career is finished, especially if Adam Gase isn't fired here after Thursday Night Football. But to be fair, on Thursday, I'm going to get a full night's sleep because I'll be sleeping through that snooze fest of a game and going straight to bed. I am very excited.
I'm watching that game. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have fun with
Wait,
it.
it's Jets Broncos, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thursday night.
Oh, okay, good. I can do something else.
To be fair, I actually might watch a little bit because Sam Darnold has been making some ridiculously good plays and not getting any media attention for it. I think it's because he follows it up with like 5 interceptions.
Yeah, that's
but
probably
he's
it.
had some good throws.
So let's talk about Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold's not getting any love in this offense. I feel like he's regressed, but it's not his fault. Like, if there's one guy I'm upset for with the Jets, it's Darnold, because I think Darnold's a really good player still,
Yeah.
but I feel like he's regressed tremendously.
to be fair, he has no wide receivers.
He has Braxton Berrios
He
has
has
been his most consistent.
He has known nothing.
Yeah, he has
I thought he
nothing
was
to
that
work
good
with.
anyways, to be honest.
Now it is interesting that you talk about starting quarterbacks or quarterbacks coming into their first team, because the guy I wanted to talk about is a guy who I didn't think was going to do great in the NFL, who I was uncertain about how they would transfer over, because I'm usually someone who's pretty cautious of like big name college QBs coming over to the NFL and starting right away. Joe Burrow, for what he's working with in an O-line, he's getting murdered. Like, I don't cringe very often when I see someone get hit, but like 2 weeks in a row, he's gotten like semi-trucked. And
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
it's been
like,
horrible.
oh, Joe, how are you not dead? Like,
It's been horrible. Like, I'm
it's
with you.
painful.
It's horrible to watch. It's ridiculous.
Yet he looks okay.
I mean,
He looks
He doesn't look that
phenomenal.
bad.
I said to my friend from Philly, I was like, damn, your dude just murdered him, but like, holy shit, this guy might be the toughest rookie quarterback I've ever seen.
He's so
Like,
tough.
Yeah.
You know who's not?
Oh,
The guy on the other side of the field, Carson Wentz.
yeah.
That guy's that's my one miss this season so far. Is I had Carson Wentz ranked number 4 going into the season, and boy was that a mistake. He sucks bad things. He's
What-
awful.
Hey Shane, you were right about Carson Wentz. He's really not that great.
Shane, you are absolutely 100% correct.
Yeah,
I was sadly
it's all right.
mistaken.
Be more specific with Carson Wentz. What is wrong with Carson Wentz in your mind? Like, if you were to pick one specific thing.
It's his
Inconsistency.
decision making. It's like he doesn't know what he wants to do when he has the ball in his hand anymore. And for the first 2-3 years of his NFL career, he was one of the league's best at finding a good receiver, making plays. But now he's just making plays for the defense. Like, he's giving them the ball, it seems, every other drive. It's bad.
I just think of that last drive in the Eagles, Bengals game. Just watching them, all the players on the field stand around with 9 seconds, just ticking down. Just the look in every player on that field's eyes, just like, are you kidding me? Like a tie.
I've lost so much faith in him. I chose the Bengals to win this week against the Eagles because
I
I
did
don't
Well, you got
think
half a
they're that
point.
good.
Honestly, the
I know.
Eagles should
I was
be-
so
the-
close.
The Eagles should have been so happy that they didn't have fans in the stands for that game.
Oh, God.
Because, oh my God, that would have been brutal.
Maybe my new phrase now, instead of, because I always say that Joe Flacco is the greatest quarterback of all time, joking around, because everyone after he
Number
won the
2.
Super Bowl,
Last
everyone
2
was
shows.
like, "Oh, he's amazing." Maybe he should be Carson Wentz now.
I remember a couple of years ago, there was a debate on if Joe Flacco was elite, and I remember reading it like, what am I looking at right now? Why is this a conversation we're
He got
having?
paid like an elite quarterback. He got paid.
He wins a Super Bowl after a subpar year, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's the greatest thing since Jesus Christ." It's like, what?
Okay, let's move on from Joe Flacco to that quarterback that Brandon mentioned originally. Jackson, your analysis on Joe Burrow for through 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness, I love that man. There has not been a quarterback since okay, it makes it seem like a long time ago, but Kyler Murray, there's been a couple of quarterbacks since the Russell Wilson era started in Seattle that I've seen and gone, they're going to be really special. And that was 1, Russell Wilson. It's been 2, Kyler Murray. And it's been 3, Joe Burrow. He's been sensational. I mean, when you ask a rookie quarterback to throw 60 times in a game and he steps up to the plate and does it, and he was pretty good too.
Yeah.
And he's taken hits and he's still finding ways to stay in games with better than bad teams, the Browns and the Eagles. I think if the Bengals do a good job in their next couple of drafts and free agencies, they can build a real winning team. Joe Burrow is a champion.
I really want to see the Bengals really kind of build that O-line.
Penei Sewell in this next
build that O-line, because I think if they get an O-line and then they can start bringing in some threats at wide receiver, they're going to be kind of filthy.
Their wide receiving core is still amazing.
In the pass game. They cannot have Joe Burrow getting trucked every game. I thought he had a concussion in the second game. The way he just kind of stood up.
Too.
Well, I mean, I looked into his eye. Like, I was looking at his eyes. I was like, I'm pretty certain this dude has a concussion, but turned out he didn't.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
I look at a couple things for the Bengals. I like their receiving core. AJ Green's out the door pretty much in a year or two. And then you got T. Higgins, you got On Tate, you got Tyler Boyd, who's certainly going to be filling in that number 1 role. And then, I mean, you look at this draft. It's a pretty good tackle draft. Of course, Penei Sewell at the top of the board out of Oregon. Shane, this is probably going to be a pretty funny thing, but the reason why I bring this up is because I wasn't necessarily outraged by this point, but I thought it to be interesting and also weird. We had a tie in this game, so I'm going to let you talk about how much you don't like ties in the NFL and your proposal to get rid of them.
Yeah. I hate ties. Ties are the worst thing that exists in any sport, period. That's why soccer sucks.
Soccer's
And
great.
and I, especially in a sport like football where these guys battle for 4 hours and, just get absolutely thrown around and you end a game and nobody comes out on top. Like, what? No, that's stupid. Okay. So you have your overtime period. Okay, fine. Now, Robert was saying, oh, so do you want a second OT? No. You can't do that because then that'll just wreck their bodies. Okay, they have to play a game next week. Okay, so they can't play a game and a half today or else they'll just be dead. If it's still tied after one overtime period, this is controversial, I know, but I don't care. You have the kickers from each team attempt a 50-yard field goal like penalty kicks. Okay, that kind of premise. Whoever gets more wins. Done. Goodbye. Go home. Honestly, like,
I think that's a good idea, actually. I would love to see the NFL adopt that, but I don't think they ever will.
no, they never would.
I don't like it at all.
No, they never would. But
Do you like ties, Robert?
No, here's my point.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Here's my point. In the NFL, ties are not something that should happen. It's happened every year the last few years. My thing, like in soccer, Shane, in soccer in particular, ties make sense because they're in a point system, right? You got
but it's
3
so
points.
Stupid. I don't know. No, it's dumb.
Based on the system that is soccer, is football in Europe.
Yeah, the system is dumb.
No, it's a pretty. We've been trying to integrate that in the MLS for a long time, for a good reason. That makes sense. But when you're talking about football, the idea that you would put the field goal kickers out there, now, yeah, it would make it so that NFL teams have to be more focused on the kicker. I mean, they already are anyway. I would rather see them do 1 10-minute overtime period and then just do college rules overtime for every
love
period
the college
after.
rules overtime.
So why not just have one overtime period like that and do college rules overtime, or just do college rules overtime? Like, that makes more sense than a kickoff, which would stress everybody out. Like, if you lose a kickoff, you're going to be mad for weeks.
No, I know.
We don't need that. Like, let's just do 1 10-minute overtime period, or let's bump it up back to 15, but I get why they did it to 10. I get why it's 10 minutes. That's fine. And then let's just do college rules overtime afterwards. That to me makes more sense than a kickoff.
The only thing that I don't like about college rules overtime is that it could just go on forever and ever and ever.
But it's not as strenuous on players' bodies because it's not like, especially when you're talking about NFL, like a game's going to end really quick, more likely than not. A game's going to end really fast. A game's going to end in about 10 to 15 plays more often than not.
Yeah, these are NFL players, not 18-year-old kids.
And that's why I'm saying do 1 10-minute overtime first, and don't just do straight college rules. Brennan, your thoughts on
college
this?
Rules. But yeah, anyways.
I don't know. It sucks that there are ties, but I feel like at the same time, it's kind of like if you can't, in the time allotted, if both teams can't score a X amount of points, I don't know. I forget, is college rules the one that's like sudden death?
Yeah, it's like back and forth, and they start at like the 25, or I would move it back to like the 30 or the 40 for the NFL and then do it that way.
Right.
That national championship game a few years ago ended in that way, and I thought it was a good way to, get the overtime done with.
I just feel like, and this is why I've added this over the last few days, because I thought just do straight college rules overtime. I actually think it makes more sense with the 10-minute overtime period to do the 10-minute overtime period as it normally stands, and then do college rolls overtime afterwards so that it's like an extra 10 to 15 plays and we finish. I just think the kickoff is too gimmish, and it doesn't like
Yeah.
actually.
No, it
It's
is.
kind of
That was
like
just
it's kind of
my
like the
easy
shootout
solution.
it's kind of like the shootout in hockey too. Like it's not
Yeah.
necessarily the best way to end a game.
No,
I-
it's not. That was
I-
just
yeah.
my
I-
that was just my easy solution.
Yeah, I feel like the overtime is the way it is in the NFL because probably the people who made the rule that way assume that most teams who get the ball are gonna be able to go down and
Can
score
score.
a touchdown, or because like I feel like most of the time in overtime, one of the two teams is gonna be able to score a touchdown in the first 10
Or
minutes,
field goals or whatever, yeah.
Right. Like, and that's my point. Like, if you have two teams that are so bad that you can't put a touchdown on the board,
In 10 minutes.
you don't deserve it.
Or
You don't
40
deserve
or
to get the
whatever.
dub. Like,
Yeah.
at that level. Like, I feel like in college it's different, but like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Any other particular games you want to talk about before we finish?
I think we should just have the head coaches of either team do a 100-yard sprint, and whoever finishes first gets the win.
Pete Carroll versus
Bill
Andy
Belichick?
Reid
Andy
or
Reid.
Bill Belichick, yeah.
I got my money on Pete.
I would have my money to like the best on that. I would have Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. I think would be like the
Yeah.
number 1 and 2 like coaches to
Matt
do.
LaFleur.
John Gruden?
John.
I'm trying to imagine.
yeah.
I'm trying to imagine like what Pete Carroll versus Bill Belichick would look like. Just
Pete would smoke Bill Belichick,
yeah.
and it would be close. Pete Carroll literally sprints staircases when he's at practice.
Any particular games you guys want to talk about before we finish off? I actually have one more topic I want to get to.
I don't.
No. Yeah, so let's do one last thing, and I know we normally do NBA on Fridays, but we had some breaking news today, so I wanted to finish off with an NBA topic because we had the breaking news today. Doc Rivers was fired by the Clippers, and I'm upset.
I'm not.
I am really mad about it, and here's why. It's stupid. It's an overreaction. They were in a bubble. They were in a really bad. They even Paul George's messaging freaked me out. The biggest problem with the Clippers is Paul George right now, not anything else. Because Paul George's messaging was this was in a championship or bust year. Obviously, it was if Doc Rivers got canned, which he shouldn't have. It's like, and keep in mind, they had one more year of this. This was a 2-year thing. Is Mike D'Antoni really the right coach for this team? No. The only coach that makes any level of sense is Doc Rivers. Because at some point, like if they bring in D'Antoni and guess what, this doesn't work next year, Kawhi and Paul George are gone, and you just lost 8 years of first-round picks. Doc Rivers is the only coach that makes sense.
They just threw everything out the window by firing Doc Rivers. I think that's probably one of the worst firings of a head coach I've seen in sports history. I think it's awful.
Yeah, I honestly can't believe that. I'm just hearing about it for the first time right now, actually.
Mm-hmm. What's your instant reaction to that, Shane?
Well, you saw it. I was like, by the way, that reaction was not to you saying that you were upset, because I agree. The reaction was like, wow, they fired him. Wow.
Yeah,
yeah.
What a catastrophic move by an already sorry organization. Like, there's specific reasons why there's a thing called a championship window. You have a specific amount of time. It's not just 1 year, and that 1 year being a COVID-influenced season where everyone goes to Florida and plays in a bubble. Like, allow them to have a full regular season. I guarantee if they don't go to the bubble, the Clippers would have won the NBA title. I think they would have won.
I would have put them, and even the Lakers would have been still very competitive.
Yes, it was going to be either one of the two LA teams. Personally, for me, I have LeBron beating the Heat in the finals this year. And the championships, don't get me wrong. Same. The championship, it doesn't mean any less, but I'm just saying the Clippers just
It's a
made
weird
a
one.
catastrophic mistake for their organization, which has already been on the hot seat for the last 50 years. Also, when it comes to coaching, a coach can only do so much, and to have two all-pro players like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard not be able to score more than like 25 combined points in a game 7 and up 3-1 to not be able to close out that series, that's more on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard than it is to Doc Rivers for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Brandon, your thoughts on the firing?
So I think the firing, like for them to fire him now doesn't make a ton of sense. There's been times in the past couple years where I've been kind of surprised they haven't let him go at times where they've had build up to success where it seems like the Clippers, I mean, in the past the Clippers have had like players that were good where it looked like they were like going to have some success, and it felt like at times they were keeping him around, and for them to cut him now, so it's very weird. It's an overreaction, as everybody has said, and I think it's kind of them going like, get out of here, we'll do something, we'll bring in somebody else, like
Bring in D'Antoni.
right.
D'Antoni's going to screw this whole thing up.
Yeah, because I don't think. I mean, like you said, I don't think Doc Rivers is the problem there.
And now this proves
Or was.
everyone's point that this was a championship or bust year for them, which it probably shouldn't. I mean, it should have been to some degree, but they had two. Like they have 2 years, and one was a weird year, and they could have figured out this year. Now, yeah, the window's very short, but at the same time, it just doesn't make any sense. D'Antoni's going to change this whole roster and make it really weird. And again, I feel like Paul George's playoff struggles are going to continue, but I still feel like they would have been somewhat mitigated if we didn't have a bubble year. Like, it makes more sense for me if you're looking at, let's look at Houston, for instance. Yeah, Mike D'Antoni's probably the only coach that can actually coach that team, but I wasn't upset with that firing because they did 5-6 years and they tried to do everything. They literally did everything in the book to try to win a title, and they couldn't. I'm fine with that.
Tyronn Lue still available?
He is their assistant coach. So he's another option for the Clippers is to promote him to the head coach. Which seemed like if that happens, I'm not as upset necessarily. I still am. But I feel like that transition wouldn't be as bad.
Well, the 76ers are about to get a really good coach in Doc Rivers. So I'll be looking forward to seeing how that plays out. I don't think there's another spot for him to go. I think the 76ers is a great spot for Doc Rivers. I can think of a better team. No, I think Doc
Bo
Rivers
wants out too, by the way. Oladipo does want out of.
I saw it exactly, and I think Doc knows how to handle star players, which I think will be really important for the Philadelphia 76ers organization staff. They're like their head honchos, their top guys to be like, hey, this guy can handle our stardom. He can handle a character like Joel Embiid. He can help a player like Ben Simmons. So I think I think he's like 90% likely to go to Philadelphia, which I like to fit.
Yeah. All right, and that is it for today. Thank you for joining us, Jackson. Great post show as always. We'll see you back here on Friday. Oh, Jackson, by the way, who is your Fantasy Star MVP pick? You get the pick today. Who is your Fantasy MVP for Monday night
for tonight's
Monday Night Football?
Game?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I'm gonna have to give it to Patrick Mahomes. He put the game on his back.
Yes, sir.
The run game really wasn't all that great tonight. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a great receiving night, not a rushing night. Tyreek Hill and tight end Kelsey both had pretty decent nights receiving. And I think Mahomes knew it was bright lights, big time to put your name on the billboards, get your money, and win a game. And he did just that. So I'd have to give it to Patrick Mahomes.
And one last thing for the NBA side as well, finals predictions. I got the Lakers in 6.
I have the Lakers in 6, with the finals MVP being LeBron James.
Same. LeBron wins the MVP. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give it to Anthony Davis. AD wins the MVP.
It'll be really close, but it'll be one of the two.
I think AD wins MVP. Shane, what's your finals prediction? And who wins MVP?
Lakers in 7 AD MVP.
Brandon, last one, finals prediction before we get off air.
You know what? I'm gonna go.
I know I knew he was going to do it.
I'm gonna go Heat in 7.
I knew it.
Who wins
Look,
MVP?
someone's got a Heat in 7. Jimmy Butler is
All right.
the MVP.
All right.
You know who would be a good sleeper for MVP for the Lakers in the finals would be Kyle Kuzma.
Ooh,
I'd watch out
Kuz.
for him.
Yeah.
I'd watch out for him to have a breakout series right here. But all in all, I think it will be LeBron James. Just because the NBA loves him. I love him. You can see his jersey right up there.
Thank you.
But,
As a LeBron guy.
Yep. It'll happen. Lakers in 6. AD or LeBron MVP.
Yeah. So, and then I will go dark horse for MVP if the Heat win. I think it's very simple. I think it's Tyler Hero. He's been ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if we get there. All right. Great show today, as always. We will see you all on Friday. Thank you once again, Jackson, for joining us. We will see you all.